All right, guys. So what I thought I would do is make a key for you. So I'm going to go ahead and start by just working through this. So let's start with number one on the review. Number one, we have amplitude. So what it would help us to do is to make like this dotted line. This is your amplitude line. So this is the highest it goes to the lowest it goes. That's at -5. I want to show you how nice these lines are. Now I regret not having you draw these amplitude lines from the get-go. But the amplitude goes as low as -5 and as high, at 5 and as high as -1. So that makes our amplitude 4 divided by 2, which is 2. Notice where the start is. It's right here. Now that's important that the start is right there because we have to figure out our period. So the period is how long it takes to go, and I'm going to use a highlighter for this, how long it takes to go up, down, and back to that midline again. Now, one thing I did not do was draw in the midline. The midline would be this line right here. Okay, so we start at the midline. Okay, we go to the midline again when it's sine and then back to the midline again. So sine always starts on the midline. So this took how long to complete? 4 pi. And we started at 0. It's very important that you know that you started at 0. So we started at 0 down -3 and the period was 4 pi. Okay, the midline we just pointed out, it's right here at -3. So it's not just -3, but y equals -3. This is not increase or decrease, that kind of thing. This is short for increment. So right here, it's wanting the increment. So the increment, you've got to remember that period is equal to 2 pi over b. And the increment is equal to period over 4. Okay, so if I take this period and I divide it by 4, I'll get pi. All right, the domain, guess what? All real numbers for sine and cosine. We have no limit to what our x and y can be. It goes forever left and forever right. Okay, range does have a definite limit. And to me, interval notation is the absolute best way to go with this. So the lowest it goes is -5. So it's always your minimum amount first up to the maximum amount. Well, it tops out at -1. So this is my range. Now the domain, I could already go over here. I don't even care what it is. Domain is all real numbers. Okay. Vertical shift. Well, it went down because of this going down for your midline going down to 3. The vertical shift was 3 down. All right. Amplitude over here, it starts off, well, let's put in our lines. It goes to -1, climbs to +3. That is an amplitude of 2. Amplitudes can never be negative. The period, since it started here, this said start. I kind of put my dotted line through it, but there's start right there. So how long does it take for it to get back down here? Well, only pi units. The midline is going to be halfway between these two, and that's right here. Okay, so my midline is at y equals 1. The increment is going to be pi divided by 4, which is just pi over 4. And the range is going to be from -1 until it gets to 3. And those are brackets because it includes those values. Vertical shift is down 1. And it's going to start at 0 In this case, 0, -1. Oh, wait a minute. My vertical shift went up 1. You know what? I was like, something's wrong there. Let me go find my eraser. Eraser. This went 1, but it went up. It didn't go down when I was sitting there looking at the bottom line. Shame on me. Let's fix that. 1 up. All right, write the two equations for the lines above. Okay, so that means I have to go in both of these because if you remember the equation, it's y equals a sine or cosine of bx, sorry, that is a b, bx minus c plus d. Now, the one thing that I know is that this is my d, the a is equal to +1. This is a positive sine curve here because it starts by going up. This is a negative cosine curve because it dumps the water out of the cup. That's the cosine. So let's go back to here. So in this case, the A is +2. The B, I have to do a little work to find, and I have to go right here to the period to find the B. So I would have to set 4 pi equal to 2 pi over B. All right. Now I'm going to do the fast solving this and just exchange these two. All right. And that gives me B equals 2 pi over 4 pi. These pi's cancel and the 2 over 4 becomes 1 over 2. So it's 1/2. So this is 1/2 x. There was no shift, so I'm going to close that off. And then the, where is it? Midline. That's my d value, -3. All right, there's that one. Okay, so this next one, I'm going to go write the equation for that, and it's going to be y equals, okay, this one, be careful from the start. It's going up and back down again. I'll get my highlighter. That's not a highlighter, excuse me. Grab the highlighter, and as you can see, this is how long it takes to get back. Boy, I highlighted a whole lot of stuff. All right, very hard to stay online with this, but you get the idea. This would dump water. If this were a cup, it would dump the water out. So that means that it is a negative amplitude. This is your amplitude. It is positive, but it's going to be the negative amplitude of cosine, not sine. Everything else stays the same. The B, I have to go to the period and say the pi is equal to 2 pi over b. Well, what did b have to be to make this 2 pi just a pi? It had to be a 2. So I would put 2x minus c, which is 0. And then how did it change? It went up 1. So this right here tells me my d. So +1. All right. So going on down the page. Now, the sine of a graph with amplitude of 2 has a minimum of -1. What is the max? Okay, so think about this. If you have a sine graph, or cosine, by the way, and the amplitude is 2 with a minimum value of -1, let's see what that means. You have -1 here. This is 0, but an amplitude means it's to the midline. So your midline would hit here, and it goes up 2 more. So your midline's at 1, and you line a line of 2, a line at 3. So with this being the amplitude of 2, and an amplitude of 2, that comes out 2 in each case, all right? That means what is the maximum value? You should be able to figure out. It's 3. A cosine graph with an amplitude of 6 has a maximum value of 3. What's a minimum value? So here's x going this way, the x-axis, okay, with a maximum value of 3, an amplitude of 6. So this thing has to drop 6 points at -3 before it finds the midline. Here's your midline. All right, so then it has to go down 6 more, which means this would be, so down 6, down 6. We don't call them amplitudes negative. I shouldn't have done that. But you go down 6 more, you go -6. That's going to put you at -9. So the minimum value is -9. What is the phase shift of this? Okay, hint, where does it start? Now that means if you know where it starts, all you have to do is find the phase shift. So you set this equal to 0, and so you get 2x minus pi equals 0. Add pi to both sides, 2x equals pi. So x is equal to pi over 2. Now, this is a positive value, so that means it goes pi over 2 to the right. There you go. I hope that helps. What's the range of this one? Well, the range, okay, this is another one that you're having to think. By the way, the midline hits at 1. So here's my 0 down here. This is my midline hitting at 1, 0. And your amplitude is 2. So you've got to go from your midline, you got to go up 2 and down 2. If you go down 2, you're at -1. You go up 2, you're at 3. So 3 and -1, those are your key important numbers there. So that's what your range is going to be. So the lowest your range can be is -1. The highest is going to be 3. Always, always, always do minimum and then maximum. How low to how high you can go. All right. And you know what? I'm going to graph these on my next video. I'm going to stop right there so I can split this into 2 shorter videos.